In this lecture, we would learn about Kaplan turbine, degree of reaction, the basic of which we have learned in the last lecture, and cavitation. Now, Kaplan turbine is basically an axial flow turbine. It works at low heads up to 30 meters and high flow rates. Fine, its unit is like a propeller of a ship. Fine, just the way the propeller of a ship is, the shape of the turbine is exactly like that. Now, in case of ship, what happens is that there is a propeller. That propeller is rotating, and that rotating propeller, throws the water on the backside, and due to that high velocity water going away from the ship moves ahead because of Newton's third law. So the exactly reverse thing happens here. Here what happens is that the water strikes the propeller, fine, and due to that there is a reaction force, there is an impulse force. The combination of that makes the propeller rotate, fine. But here one important difference is that the propeller's blades are adjustable, fine. They are not fixed blade, they are adjustable blade. The blade angle can be changed, fine. So what happens in case of Kaplan turbine is that just like Francis turbine, it has also got a spiral casing, it has got a guide wheel, it has got guide vanes. So in spiral casing the same thing happens which happens in the Francis turbine, the same function. In guide vanes also the same thing happens, means what, the regulation of flow takes place and the conversion of pressure into velocity takes place. But apart from that, one very important change is there. The guide vanes are turning the water into axial direction completely, fine, so that the water, when it enters into the propeller, it enters axially and it flows axially and then it leaves axially, fine. So that is the biggest difference, right? So that's why Kaplan turbine is a axial flow turbine. Now, as you can see from the diagram, here it is. This is the casing. As you can see, this is the casing. Fine, just like Francis turbine last time we discussed. Then from casing, the water, the water enters from penstock into this casing, and then that water enters into this guide vanes, Now, in guide vanes, the water, gets, some energy conversion takes place. Pressure gets converted into velocity. A part of pressure gets converted into velocity. Then another important thing is that the change in direction. As you can see here, the direction of the flow is changed, fine. So it becomes axial. So this is axial flow now, fine. This is axial flow. Now you can see these are the blades of the turbine, red colored blades, fine. This is the blade, as you can see. Now these blades are looking flat in the slide, but actually these blades are twisted, fine. The flat blade is like this. This is the flat blade. Now in case of flat blade, what happens, throughout at the entrance the blade angle is constant, and throughout at the exit also blade angle is constant. But in case of twisted blades, what happens, in case of twisted blade, throughout right from the one section to the last section, the blade angle is varying, fine. So if here it is like this, here it might be like this, fine. So it would be a twisted blade. So as you can see, here the blade angle is different and here the blade angle is different. Similarly, here blade angle is different, here blade angle is different. So throughout the length at the entrance, so what I mean to say is, just see here throughout the length the blade angle is changing. Here also throughout the length the blade angle is changing. Here also throughout the length the blade angle is changing. Now why the blade angle is changing? The reason is that as you can see here, the peripheral velocity is different. Here peripheral velocity is different. Here peripheral velocity is different. Why it is different? Because the radius is changing. Here radius is lesser, here radius is higher, here radius is still higher. So as the radius increases, peripheral velocity also increases, because it is pi dn by 60. So if peripheral velocity is varying throughout the length, the velocity triangle will change. And then in order to get a shockless entry throughout the length of the blade, we have to change the blade angle from hub to tip. Fine. So from hub, this is the hub portion, so this is the hub section, and this is the tip section. So from hub to the tip, throughout the length, the blade angles are to be changed. Here also the blade angles are to be changed. Fine. So this is the peculiarity, one of the most important thing, that the blade of the Kaplan turbines are twisted or warped. Fine. Another word which is used is warped. Fine. Warped. Okay, so this was all about now how the action takes place. So see, the action is very simple, just the way we had learned. The passage between these two blades, this is one blade, as you can see, this is another blade. So the passage between these two blades, the flow area here is decreasing. So due to that decrease in flow area, the relative velocity will increase, and due to rise in relative velocity, there will be a reaction force. Now as far as the impulse force is concerned, that would be by default present, because there will be a change in the change in the momentum. There would be a change in the direction of flow. Fine. So there will be a deflection. So due to that deflection, there will be an impulse force. So impulse force would be there, reaction force will be there. But one difference with respect to Francis turbine is that here U1 and U2 are same. And just because, why U1 and U2 are same? Because if you take this section, so at this section inlet radius, and at this section it is the exit, so here also the radius, so R1 and R2 are same, and that's why U1 and U2 are same. So the reaction force which we were getting in Francis turbine because of change in the radius, that we are not getting here. Fine. So here we are getting reaction force only because of relative velocity. By default impulse force is present. Fine. So this was all about runner blade. Then comes the draft tube. Fine. You know what happens in a draft tube. This we have discussed. High velocity jet will come out from here, and that high velocity jet, as it would be a loss of kinetic energy, in order to recover that energy, we would be sending this into a diverging duct. So what it will do is it will convert velocity into pressure, and then here you will be having a tail race. Fine. Which will this will be submerged. This area will be submerged. So this is the tail race. Fine. So here water will be discharged, and because here the pressure is higher now. Fine. It is more than atmospheric because it is submerged. So here at the exit the pressure must be lower than atmospheric. This we have learned in the Francis turbine lecture. Fine. So this, if you want to learn that, you can refer Francis turbine lecture. So here you will be getting negative pressure, and that will increase the work output. Fine. So that is what the function of draft tube is. Fine. So in this way we have understood the function of everything. Scroll casing function is similar to that of the Francis turbine. Okay, now this we have seen already. I'll just recall it quickly. Compared to Francis turbine, which has got 16 to 24 blades, Kaplan turbine has got 3 to 6 blades. Then next is, it has got low frictional losses compared to Francis turbine, because less contact surface area. As the lesser number of blades are there, less contact surface area is there. Runner blades are directly attached to the hub, so that's why frictional losses caused in Francis are higher, because there is bend is provided. Now another important peculiarity of Kaplan turbine is it has got adjustable blades. Now what is meant by adjustable blades? These blades can be swiveled. You can change the blade angle, you can turn it. Fine. You can turn this blade angle. Fine. So you can adjust the position of blade, and thereby you can keep the efficiency constant even if the load changes. See, what has been observed, that in other turbines what happens is, as the load changes the efficiency drops. But here in case of Kaplan turbine, by adjusting the blade, even if the load is very low, you can keep the efficiency constant by changing the blade angle. That's why this is the very important characteristics, and this is blades are adjustable. That's why it is also called as variable pitch propeller turbine. Now there is another axial flow turbine that is known as propeller turbine. Now what is the difference between propeller turbine and Kaplan turbine? In propeller turbine, this adjustability is not present. Fine. They are fixed blades. Fine. So that is a propeller turbine. If the blades are adjustable, it is called as Kaplan turbine. Fine. Now as you can see, another diagram of Kaplan turbine, as you can see here. Now these blades are not looking twisted, but actually they are twisted. They are twisted. These are looking flat, but actually they are twisted. There is some twist in it. Fine. With proper adjustment of blades, Kaplan turbine gives very high efficiency at varied load. Fine. Here you can see the blades are fully open. In this case, the blades are fully open, and in this case, the blades are partially closed. So here the flow area has decreased. Fine. So that is what it is. Now Kaplan turbines have got double regulation. Means what? The movement of guide vanes. You can move the guide vane just like Francis turbine, so you can regulate the flow. Another thing, you can have adjustment of runner blades also, that we have seen. Now how to get the discharge? Discharge of a Kaplan turbine is obtained by this formula: pi by 4 dO square minus dB square into Vf1. Fine. This is the formula. Flow velocity at inlet. Peripheral velocity is pi dN by 60, which is constant. Now this is also we have seen, we have learnt requirement of shock free entry and exit, that makes the blade angles to vary from section to section. Now the blade is greater at the tip and smaller at the hub. Fine. So it is, the blade angle is smallest at the hub and largest at the tip. Runner blades of Kaplan turbines are, that's why, called as warped or twisted. Fine. This we have learned, but just we are recalling it. Okay, now let us see the velocity triangle. Velocity triangle we have discussed in detail in the past 3 lectures. Fine, of hydraulic turbine basics. That was the first lecture. Then second was Pelton wheel. Third one was the Francis turbine. Then in degree of reaction also we have got a separate lecture on degree of reaction, that you can see. Now here, as you can see, beta is varying. Fine. Here beta is less than 90 degree. Here beta is equal to 90 degree, and here beta is greater than 90 degree. Fine. So that's why there are 3 situations, and here at the exit we have assumed that the absolute velocity is axial completely. It is at 90 degree. Fine. So V2 is equals to Vf2. With these assumptions, you can find R. Now what is the formula of R? R is 1 minus cot alpha 1 upon 2 into cot alpha 1 minus cot beta 1. So this derivation we have seen in the last lecture, so you can watch it. Now for beta less than 90 degree, R is less than 0.5. For beta equal to 90 degree, R is equal to 0.5, and for beta greater than 90 degree, R is greater than 1 by 2. What is our degree of reaction? Now another important thing, degree of reaction cannot be equal to 1. That means you cannot have a turbine which has got 100% reaction force. Fine. It would be having some amount of impulse force always. Fine. You can have 100% reaction in case of alpha 1 equal to 90 degree. If alpha 1 becomes 90 degree, then you will be having cot alpha 1 0, and that would give you R equal to 1. But then that would not create any kind of action, because in that case, just because if alpha 1 is 90 degree, VU1 will be 0, and if VU1 is 0, fine, the action will be not there. Fine, because E by M is VU2 U1. Fine, so that would be 0, so no action, so no result you will be getting, no energy conversion you will be getting. So degree of reaction cannot be equal to 1, it is always less than 1. So always some impulsive action is present in every turbo machine. You cannot have a pure reaction turbine. Fine. So that was all about Kaplan turbine. Kaplan turbine has got high specific speed. Fine. It has got high speed. It is suitable for low heads and high discharge. Now let us see something about cavitation. Now we know that here this is the exit of turbine and this is the draft tube. So at the exit of turbine, the pressure would be very low because of the linear draft tube, and just because the pressure would be very low, here the cavitation might occur. When the pressure goes below the vapor pressure, the cavitation will occur, and that will generate so many number of bubbles. Thousands and thousands of bubbles will be generated, and those bubbles will travel in high pressure area, and in high pressure area they will burst, and the bursting will create so much of void, and in order to fill that void, the surrounding water will rush in there, and it will create a very excessive pressure, and it will create a sort of it will create a bang on the on the material, and it will create a pitting action and erosion action. Fine, so that is undesirable. So some kind of some mathematics is there. Let us understand that. Fine, let us understand the mathematics behind it. Let us see what we are doing is we are applying Bernoulli's equation at section 2 here and at atmospheric level, means at the free surface of tail race level. Fine, the difference between their height is hs, that you should keep in mind, and here pressure is atmospheric. At tail race the pressure is atmospheric. Fine, so we'll go on the next slide. Just see now, when we apply Bernoulli theorem, what we are getting: P2 by rho g, V2 square by 2g is very high velocity, and plus hs, that is the head at the exit of turbine. What is at the tail race level on the free surface outside? It is Pa by rho g only. V square by 2g is 0. Why it is 0? Because we are talking about the water which is outside the turbine at atmospheric pressure. Z is 0 because that is taken as a datum, and Hf is nothing but the frictional force. Fine, the frictional losses and the minor losses. So now, what is the condition? Condition is that the minimum pressure which is generated in the turbine, it should be greater than the vapor pressure. Fine, in order to avoid the cavitation. So here we will write P2 minimum. Fine, so because that will give us the condition at which the cavitation will begin. So P2 minimum by rho g plus V2 square by 2g plus hs, that is equal to Pa by rho g plus hf. Now here one thing which you should see is, here this hf, the loss, is actually favorable for us. It is actually delaying or trying to avoid the cavitation. Why? Because of friction, because of losses, what would happen? The tendency of rise in pressure. See what is happening in draft tube. In draft tube the pressure is rising. So due to rise in pressure, there is a negative pressure creation in the runner exit. But this loss will do what? This loss will decrease the tendency of rise in pressure. So this decreases the tendency of rise in pressure, will decrease the drop in the pressure at the exit of runner. So that will decrease the tendency of cavitation. So that's why frictional forces or the friction is supporting here. Fine. So now if you can simplify it, P2 minimum by rho g is equals to Pa by rho g minus V2 square by 2g plus hs plus hf. Fine. Now very important thing, just see now, if V2 is very high, if velocity is very high, then cavitation will take place. If hs is very large, if the height difference between the tail race and the exit of runner is very high, means if the draft tube is lengthy, then also there are chances that cavitation will take place. Minimum pressure at the runner exit might go below vapor pressure of the liquid and the cavitation will occur. Fine. Now here we are just rearranging the term, and we have kept V square by 2g and hf on one side, and remaining thing, that is Pa by rho g minus P minimum by rho g minus z on another side. This is not z, this is hs. Fine, hs. So if you write, instead of this V square by 2g minus hf, if you write sigma ch, now what is h? H is the net head available across the turbine. So now what is sigma c? Sigma c is called as the critical cavitation factor. What do you call sigma c? Critical cavitation factor. And this is your P minimum. Here it is P minimum. So Pa by rho g, that is atmospheric pressure, minus P minimum by rho g minus hs. Fine, so that will give you critical cavitation factor. Now this we know. Fine, this is the critical cavitation factor. Fine, you are putting h below. Fine, but then there is another thing that is known as Thomas cavitation parameter. What is that? Just see now, its formula is same. Just see, its formula is same. What is the difference? Pa by rho g is same, Pa by rho g is same. Instead of P minimum by rho g, here it is P2 by rho g, not PV, P2 by rho g minus hs. So instead of P minimum, now what is P minimum? P minimum is nothing but the vapor pressure of water. Now how to get the vapor pressure of water? You have to just see the temperature of water at the exit of runner, and corresponding to that temperature you have to see the partial pressure, you have to see the saturation pressure in steam table. So that is your PV. Now what is P2? Now P2 is nothing but the actual pressure at the turbine exit. Fine. So here you are finding out the actual cavitation parameter sigma, and this is critical. Critical means what? At at these values cavitation will occur, but here you are just checking. So if sigma is greater than sigma c, fine. Now how to find sigma? Pa by rho g minus P2 by rho g minus hs. P2 is the actual value of pressure at the runner exit. Fine. So you just compare now If sigma is greater than sigma c, then cavitation will be avoided. But if sigma is less than sigma c, then cavitation is inevitable. Now if H is high, if net available head is very high, or if Hs is very high, then sigma will decrease. If net head is very high, fine, because if net head is very high, that will also create a high vacuum, fine. Or if the height above the tail rest level is very high, then also sigma will decrease, and that would lead to cavitation, fine. So that was all about cavitation. Okay, so now also we can find out the maximum possible height above the tail rest level, fine, with the help of that sigma c formula only. So this is the formula. Here you can write, instead of PV you can write P minimum also. So PA by rho g minus PV by rho g minus HS max upon H. So you are getting this formula. So while designing, one should take care that the height above the tail rest level should be lower than this. If it becomes equal to this or it becomes greater than this, then definitely cavitation will occur, fine. So now effect of cavitation can also be reduced by following things: setting the turbine near the tail rest level, using runner blades made up of stainless steel. Stainless steel or nickel steel will decrease that erosion and pitting action that happens because of cavitation. It cannot avoid cavitation, but it can sustain or it can survive in cavitation. Spraying layer of erosion resistant material on the places where cavitation could occur, fine. So these are the ways in which you can handle cavitation, fine. So this finishes the lecture. Thank you.